Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Creative Marketing Show. Ange here. I'm actually going to be joined today by a special guest. I'm continuing this special guest series where an actual business owner is coming on to the show, and we're going to talk about just some of the things they're working through so they can get some feedback. Because again, I love the opportunity to learn through stories and through conversation. So I hope that you've been enjoying these types of episodes. If you are, make sure you reach out and let me know. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about balancing family life, especially if you work from home, especially if you have kids around, as well as multiple businesses. So sometimes we do have just more than one aspect. I know I do. So I'm really excited to dive in. I have Nichole on today, and she is a content creator in Barrie, Ontario, Canada, and loves working with small businesses. She helps them tell their story in a more accessible and personalized as well as professional way through content. So I am super excited. She is organizedesthetic.com, but let's just jump in and get this conversation with Nichole. Hey, and welcome to the Creative Marketing Show. I'm your host, Angela S. Joyon. This is the podcast for ambitious women in business looking to cut the BS, stop dancing for likes, and learn to create honest and genuine marketing strategies that don't cause burnout and overwhelm. Have a question about content creation, social media, or maybe you're looking for more clarity on how to take your business to the next level. This is the show that brings the answers to your questions each and every week. Well, hello, Nichole. I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome.
Hi, thanks.
You're welcome. I was really excited. So these guest series have been going really well, and I particularly really enjoyed the questions that you submitted. But before we jump in to getting some feedback there, tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know I've already done your bio and introduced you, but who is Nichole and what you got going on?
Okay. Nichole is, oh God, I hang out on social media. Mostly I was hanging out as more than a mom, and that's where I kind of started having more of an online presence, and it's been fun. And that is what my journey is. I have 4 kids, but it's also about what I'm doing currently, which is what a lot of us are doing, which is kind of like, this self-healing journey or this kind of self-discovery and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I share there. And then I recently started a business called Organized Aesthetic. I was doing social media content creation on the side, and now I'm kind of going to dive into it. And that's what I'm going to do from home with my kids. So
I love it. That freedom and flexibility and managing all the things, and 4 kids. I mean, I could imagine.
Yeah.
Very, very busy.
And we're moving from New Brunswick to Ontario in 6 days. So that's kind of the other part of it is I'm moving my business back to my hometown and where my roots are. And so that's a big part of like this organized aesthetic thing. I can connect with all my old people, and
I love that.
I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
It sounds like things on this journey are really coming into play and into line. So I love that for you. And then I hope that through this conversation that I can offer any feedback that might support you there. So if we want to dive in with your first question, and let's see where this goes. But I think this is going to be a good one for our listeners.
All right. So my first question, I guess, is how do you balance, because I know you're a mom, how do you balance working from home and having a child at home?
Gotcha. So now I don't have 4, so I don't want to come across as ignorant.
No,
and you know what? Everyone, whether you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, we all know it's a balancing act, and there's never going to be full balance. I will say personally, and I'll mention I have a big dog who's just like another child, and you'll probably hear her. I really think on the kind of grander scale of it, one of the things that I have found to be really helpful is the word grace and patience. And the more we can lean in and open up ourselves to, it's not going to be perfect. Some days are going to be really shitty. Other days, we're not going to get half as much done as we were hoping to. So that grace, when we can remind ourselves to give us that grace, that's because we could plan out our day I time block, and I'll kind of get into that and a few little strategies and things that have helped me. But you never know. All of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, someone's coughing. Oh God. And like after the last few years, things happen. So personally for me, the way I have set up my business is my family is first. Now I'm also very fortunate. My husband works as well. We do rely on both incomes, but I've also kind of my mindset is also my job, and this might not resonate with everybody, but like my main job is being my son's mom, and everything else is like everything that I loved that I can create it. And so I look at building a business around how I need to flow. So that looks into like my son's schedule. Like, so when he's in school, what are those hours that he goes to school? What are the priorities? I love walking him to school, and then I can walk the dog. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. Perfect. I stop my day at a certain time because I go get him. And then typically, after school, sometimes I can get some work in, but then maybe I don't schedule meetings because he's home. So it's very much proactive. This is probably the former wedding planner in me of like being really scheduled to detail and having a little bit of that flexibility. So in terms of balancing, if you've tuned into the show, which I know you have, I've done a few episodes. Like I put out my to-do list the night before. Like I look at what have I accomplished today? And then, okay, what can I kind of prioritize the next day? And so, and I time block, I'm very, very clear and detailed there. And I started, and I even like write on my calendar, like, 8:45, like walk to school. Like I really, I write it out every day, even though during the school year, it's the same schedule. I'm like, no, like I don't know. It just kind of blocks it off for me that way. And so the same thing, looking at when I can book meetings, and it comes down to boundaries. So I think that's really important too, is if I'm going to book a meeting, I wouldn't book it right at 9 because I'm not back from school. So I do like a 10 to 2 window usually to allow time when I do need to be on meetings, on Zoom calls, recordings, and sticking with that. And I think for the longest time, outside influence really crept in where it's like, you can't meet at 4 or 5. And it's like, and I think we've all been there. Sure. Okay. But as soon as you do that, that becomes standard. And especially it becomes harder to set a boundary with a client when you haven't established it from the get-go, where you've allowed a little bit of leeway. And I'm not trying to be like, no, I can be flexible, but for the most part, probably the best shift that I made was being uncompromising of like, no, I'm really sorry. I would love to accommodate, but these are the hours. And since I've done that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head where it's bit me in the ass, where it's like, oh my God, I lost out on something huge. In most cases, I think it's respected. And usually for the most part, people are like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I understand. And then it's all the energy around it too, right? Because in the past when I've done that, where it's like, oh, they can only meet in the evening. It's like, fine. And then you go into that meeting and it's like, oh, I don't want to be here. Like, right? I can see you smiling. Like it's like, and there's nothing worse where I'm like, I'd rather be jazzed. Like if we were doing this and it was in the evening, maybe I wouldn't have come with the same energy because I'd be like, oh, I'm trying to get to bed. I'm hungry. Like it's a beautiful evening. It's my time with my family. So grace, boundaries, prioritizing, scheduling, and forgiving the times when shit hits the fan. And
it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny that, so you have this perspective on, your clients and stuff like that. And for me, because I'm home and I guess my business hasn't progressed that far as of yet, I'm feeling all those things with my kids at home. And so, it's like I'm lying in bed with them thinking, oh, I should be doing this, or I got to get out and do this. And I'm not in the moment with my kids, snuggling them at bedtime. I'm just like thinking of all these things. So, doing the schedule and having the boundaries for both sides will definitely allow me to like just kind of be in the moments more, whether it's with work or at home, right? So that you're not everywhere all at once.
Yeah. And and I think that's really resonating. Honestly, I've been there too. And when you realize it, and I've definitely had those moments where I'm like, why am I still in work mode? Like this, and because if we work from home or we're entrepreneurs, we have our own business, it starts to feel like it's a complete extension of us. And that's where I think we get into a lot of roadblocks, because we feel like, well, I'm my business, I'm the brand. But then we don't, like, I'm sure you can agree, and I'm sure most people listening, I was a really hard worker. When I was an employee, I worked my buns off.
Hmm.
I have never worked harder in my life than working for myself.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? Which is great. But then through that, yeah, there have been times where I'm like, whoa, I'm a crazy boss to myself. I'm a
Yeah.
bitch sometimes.
Yeah.
I expect way too much. I'm unrealistic. I'm putting way too much pressure on myself. And I thought, if I had an employee, would I treat them like this? No. So, and and that's where I've made big shifts over the last year and a half, releasing things that were no longer serving well, understanding I can't do it all, and
Hmm.
finding and we're going to get into that, because I know you were talking about like balancing like multiple businesses, and even just, oh, you have to have a website, you have to show up on social, I've got the like where we're not supposed to do it all. And so mastering like one thing at a time, that's been such a good lesson,
I'm learning it right now.
right?
I have
But
to like
I
started so many things at once while I'm moving. And then I'm like, wait, hold on. Like
right.
you have to let something go. And so I did, and I feel so much better.
That's amazing. And I've
Yeah.
talked, one of my first episodes I share was, are you under the social media influence? And when it comes to social media, because when we see like, grow your email list, this is how you'll get this many followers, this is how you start your sales funnel, that it's so inundated, like where we feel like, okay, well, oh my gosh, I don't have my sales page done, I don't have my social media following up, I don't have my email list built, I'm not emailing them consistent, like. So
Hmm.
when we're thrown all of that, I mean, without social media, we would work on one thing at a time. I mean, like if you
Yeah.
think about like 10 years, it's like, okay, well, I've got my
Well, and you
website.
wouldn't feel the pressure of like boss bitch mentality where it's like you have
Right.
to be everywhere, you have to do everything, you have to hustle, hustle, hustle. That's not realistic for most people unless you have an insane support system with
Right.
someone meal prepping for you and taking care of your kids and picking them up from
Cleaning your
school.
house.
Yeah, and if that's what you even want.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, so it's
That's
definitely.
that's a really good point. And I love that you were talking about like actually being in the moment and being present like with your kids. And I mean, it sounds like that's a huge priority. I know that's a huge priority for me. And again, like that, and this might not resonate with everybody, and that's fine. But the point is like finding like what is the priority and putting that at the forefront, and then sliding in the things that come next. So for me to take a meeting at 8:30 in the morning, it's a no, because I'm committed to, I want to make his lunch, I want to get him ready, I want to see him off to school. Again, from the mother lens, we only get so much of that time.
Mhm.
I lost my mom when I was like I was 13 years old. So like
Oh,
for me personally, it's like time is so beautiful, and I don't want to miss a freaking thing.
oh
And
yeah.
yes, we're women, we can have it all. That doesn't mean it's
Mm,
easy, but it's like, I would rather, I guess that's the mindset shift too, right? Where it's like,
mhm.
here's how you can make, become the six-figure CEO of your own, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I actually like, you know, making a good income to bring in for my family, but my income goals, it's like, make sure we're looking at it where it's like, you know what? This is a really good goal. This works for me and my family. Is it always nice to want to make more? Yeah. But if it's at what cost, and that
Mhm.
hustle part where I'm like, oh, you couldn't pay me enough if I couldn't take my son to school every day or be able to go on his field trip. Right.
Yeah.
So I think like just that shift of our mindset of like, you know what? I'm good. I have,
Yeah.
my like mantra every day is, and it's a Zach Brown song, I have everything I need and nothing that I don't. And when
That's amazing.
like I say that every day in my car, like wherever I am, or on my walk after he's off, he went to camp this morning. I'm like, I have everything I need and nothing that I don't. And it's such good, really, like really, we're grateful, right? Like,
Mhm.
we get to sit here on a beautiful summer morning, and we get to connect and have this conversation. That's amazing. How lucky are we?
Yeah,
Our kids are
I
taken care
know.
of, right? We get a
Yeah,
little
and
break.
that's where so recently, I don't even remember. It's like listening to so many podcasts, I end up forgetting which ones I'm listening to, but there was one and I was listening to it and it was about life and it really made me kind of think about my values and align my values with my life. And there was a big part of me, and I don't know if it was growing up being like, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a lawyer. And I'm like, at this point in my life, I do want to be a lawyer, but I want to, fight for human rights. I don't want it for the
Ah.
prestige. But there was a big part of me from being a stay-at-home mom for so long, and being just a mom in general for so long, and putting my, I guess, career on the back burner. A big part of me had put so much value on my title,
Mm,
and on like what school did you go to, like what do you do for a living, like, oh, you're a stay-at-home mom. Like, it hurt
right.
before, and now
Yeah.
it's like, I that part is like a bonus. Like, if I can, because I don't care about it, it's like, I know that with my values, all I want to do is help people
Yeah.
in the world everywhere. But and also I want to be a present mom, and create, like, grow these humans who hopefully have similar values. And so it was such a relief to let that part of me go, and let go of, putting so much value on my job. Like, I'm
Right.
providing food and shelter and health and wellness for my family with the money that I make. That is the purpose of my money, not to
Right.
buy shiny things. So
Totally. It's the experience. And again, that time that we won't get back. How old are your kids?
so my oldest is almost 15. Then I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, it really, I really look at motherhood. It's such a beautiful gift. And I think, again, a lot of the social stuff and this hustle and here, all the crap we've already just talked about. It's I don't know, at the end of the day, when I see my kid, I'm like so excited to get him from school every day. And he's at camp, like I put him in 3 camps this summer, but otherwise I'm like, oh, he's home. I'm like, I'm so excited. Like sometimes I'm like, I wish he was home. Like even,
Yeah.
and you know what, actually on that note too, two things, and I've talked about this a little bit before. Like, in my membership, like on Q&A calls, sometimes like during the school year, especially, like, hey guys, like, so my son's home today, so if he pops in, but like I don't apologize for it. And I think that was
Mhm.
big. I think because of COVID, like we again, that grace has come into play where we've gotten a little bit more used to, like, sometimes that happens. So I'll just, and I don't apologize, like that language change from like, oh, he's here,
Mhm.
like I can still do this call if I have to go an extra 10 minutes, if I have to step away, like. And to me, like, no one's ever said, I can't believe you take care of your kid over us. Like, nobody would do that. Even like people who aren't moms, it's human decency. And I think the more we don't apologize, then the people we're working with, our clients, our customers, whoever it is, they'll start to respect it. And hopefully it's kind of like that ripple effect where they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I need to give myself more grace. Like, sorry, I have
Mhm.
the school's calling, you'll have to excuse me. And it's like, yeah, no problem. So and I think the more we can show that, as when we talk about influence and influencing people, like I truly believe, if you have a platform, like if you show up, whether you have 10 followers, 100 followers, if that, whatever it is, if people are reading your content, they're watching your videos, they're tuning in, they're whatever, you have influence on them. But it's like,
Mhm.
then that's a big responsibility. It's the same thing with our children. They're looking at us, we have influence on them. So we can show them, like, yeah, no, if you need, I always say to my son, hey, mommy's on a call. If you need me, like, you can watch a show, here's some snacks, but if you need me, you come in. Like the door is always open.
Oh,
And I
that's so
think,
nice.
and he's understood, like, he understands that I'm on a call. So he's not really a loud kid, but he can come in like, excuse me, mom. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. He says, excuse me. But
Oh.
like, I don't want to close the door on him.
Mhm.
So those are part of the conversations in our household where it's like, hey, if we're on a call, if you need to come in, please do. And just know it might take me a minute. Um, but like he's seeing, like, we're that's the influence on him too. Like, mommy didn't close the door on me. Like I can come to my mom. And then that goes
Yeah.
into a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Like our kids, right? We don't want them to feel like, oh no, mom's like, and I understand this isn't the case for everybody. I understand that. I'm just speaking,
Mhm.
I want to get hate DMs.
Oh my You know what? If you do, they're not your people,
And that's
really.
exactly.
So,
But I
like, I
think,
was just before this call, I was in the washroom and I was listening to another one of your podcasts, and it was just talking about, why are you here? Like, what are you doing? And so I was just thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm from the More Than a Mom Instagram account. I'm like, why am I like, I know why I'm doing it. But then when you ask yourself and you answer it, you'd be surprised with what your answer is. And the, the reason that I show up there is I just wanted to show other moms that imperfection is normal. You
Mhm.
know, like your kid walking in while you're doing something, you're a mother, you're working from home. That is normal. And it just also reminds me of something that my best friend said to me um, when she came over to my house once, and it wasn't perfect, it wasn't pristine. I left it a mess when she came over, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I just like, I can't. She thanked me so many times, and we still bring it up, that she's like, you just made me feel so much better about myself. I don't feel like I have to put on a show for you anymore.
Right?
And you know, she can just be herself. So like what you were saying before, the ripple effect, when you, I don't know, when you show up as yourself and you're authentic, um, other people around you will feel more comfortable and they'll feel more inclined to do the same. So I love the direction that this is going specifically for women
Yeah.
and working.
And it's so true. And like what you were saying, like, you know, if someone didn't resonate with this, then they're not my people. And that's the thing. The more we can lean into our own truth and trust that our values are valid, their way of doing things are right because they're right for us, we'll find the people who are like, yeah, I made a little shift recently, and I did a new introduction post on my Instagram, and I got so many beautiful DMs. They're like, oh, nailed it. Love that you just said that, and like, or this, and like that you believe this. And it was a little overwhelming. And I thought, I was terrified to post it because it was a kind of not a new direction, but I was a little bit more forthcoming with like, I don't believe you should be spending like thousands and thousands of dollars if you need support. Like, you know, because I've been there. I'm a scrappy business owner, man. Like if I could do it cheaper for free, like I went there, been there, done that. As I've grown, I've started to invest, you know, here and there. It's the long game. I see that now, and it makes sense. But then when you get those people, and then you're like, it is a ripple effect, and then you find more of those people, and they feel like, oh, have you met Nichole? Like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. Like she's like me, like work from home, but she's like not apologizing for it because that's what you want, right? Because then it's
Hmm.
easier from we talk from like running the business in the marketing lens when we don't have to feel like we have to step out and put a different hat on, like, oh, we all wear different business hats, da da da. Where it's like, that's been something this year I really wanted to lean into. Like, what you see is what you get. So when I show up in trainings, the membership, that like, this is what I put on today because this is what I'm feeling. I'm not putting on the kind of, oh, this is video I'm recording, so I have to like, I didn't wash my hair today. I'm like,
Well,
this
I
is,
did wash my hair for
it
this.
looks fabulous. Hey, it's all like, well, wash your hair. I'm a makeup person. Like I always wear makeup every day because I've been doing it since I was 12. So I'm like, yeah, like but that feels right for me. But yeah, the more honestly, to me, it makes content creation easier. It makes delivering and showing up and running and talking to clients easier because it's not like I have to like prep. It's like, no, this is hey, I got my mic, hey, what's up? How you doing? I'm so excited you're here. Let's chat. It's
Yeah.
not, oh, we're scripted and formal because that's not my style. That might be someone else's style and they might prep that way. As long as it feels really good. And then like back to like the marketing side of it, I have found lately like showing up on social media, which actually surprisingly isn't my favorite thing to do. But the more I'm like, I'm just going to share it like this because this is what I'm feeling right now. Like I don't schedule a ton of my stuff anymore because I want it to come from a place where I'm like, oh, I have this idea. I'm going to put this together. I'm going to put it out there and see if it like, and some of the best performing posts that I've done, I'm like, oh, that was so funny. That was just kind of a ding. And I was in the moment because there's an energy around it, not to get all in the
Hmm.
woo, but like, I
Hmm.
think people can feel that. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share this. Like it's in the writing of the caption and like, oh, so like the influence of, oh, you should be posting consistently, this and this and that. Yes, I guess so. If yeah, that will help you grow. I'm like, I'm okay where I'm at because business is good. I'm feeling really good. It's not intrusive on the values that I have. So, and okay, sorry. You know, I told you, I can't stop.
That's okay.
But to me, like to summarize this at this point, it's because of that word grace, where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna give the permission and grace to like, that's cool, because I'm good with that, and I'm not
Hmm.
sorry. Um, Sorry, I know it's going on a rant.
There's so many more things I want to say too, but I'm like, you know what? We're just gonna have like a 3 hour long conversation. So
Hey,
save it for another time.
wherever it goes. Well, at this point, we can go through what you had sent, or if there's something that's just coming to you at this moment. I mean, I love
Well,
chatting like this.
I think balancing multiple businesses was my other kind of question, but I don't really care to go into it right now, I guess.
Okay.
Um, and the other one was, how do you monetize being an influencer? Because at the More Than a Mom thing, like I am showing up and I want to continue showing up, but it would be cool and it would be nice if I could tap into that somehow because I'm not sure like, quite how. But going back to content creation, and I
Yeah.
think I mentioned this at the coffee chat that you had a little while ago, talking about tapping into, when you're feeling it, you're in that energy. um just for business owners, just to pay attention to when you're in that zone. And a lot of the time for women it does have to do with our cycle. That's why I
Right.
had mentioned before.
Yeah.
So just paying attention to your cycle, and how you personally go through it every month. And when you're feeling more creative, if you're able to schedule out that time for yourself,
Hmm.
like I know that during this time I'm gonna be tired. Okay, so set a time, like do some more chill things. But when you're in that energetic creative flow, like lean into it and just like put it all out there. And then you
Yeah.
can you can have those little special little nuggets of creativity and stuff that you want to put out. And then that's what you'll put out there, instead of just like, oh, what should I post today? Oh, I guess I'll do this because I probably should do this. That's when it's kind of just falls flat and
Yeah.
doesn't feel authentic. So,
Yeah, you should see my Canva folder. That's one way I organize it, where I'll create like a bunch of carousels or ideas or my notes, and I'll write captions out and save them or find. And it's true, like
mhm.
it's nice to, you're absolutely right. It's like the creative brain dump. Even if like there is some I've gone back, I'm like, oh my God, I created all these in one sitting, and like half of them I haven't shared because when I go to do it, I'm like, mm. I will say on the content side of things, one thing that I found in terms of like consistency and really staying on brand, on point, and speaking to the target audience is having like starting with one, maybe it's multiple, but like one thing. And so for me, the podcast has been so helpful. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to do a podcast if that's not for you, whoever's listening. Um, but to me, it's like I know every week because I committed to this podcast. And that's the thing, like when we can find those commitments, if we say like, I'm going to post 5 times a week, I'm committed. Okay, let's see how that goes. I'm like, that's a big commitment. So
Mhm.
you know what, starting and playing the long game. So for me, like, okay, well, I'm going to do one podcast a week, which is still an endeavor, but it's been nice because now I know every week I have that podcast to talk about. Oh, there's the dog. But so looking into our own businesses, so I know you've got a podcast, but even if there's like one pillar where you're like, you know what, every week I'm going to share one piece of advice around content creation or social media. Here's something industry, social media, what's happening. Uh, Even like one. And then when we could get in that rhythm, introducing another, and another, and then maybe it's two or three, but also like I love what you said, like when you are in that creative zone, like there is such release in like getting it out and kind of banking it for later and filling it in. Or what I should do sometimes is schedule out those ones as well, where it's like done. What are your thoughts on that?
On scheduling?
Scheduling and just kind of starting like leaning into committing to once, or yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that.
Well, I like, for me, scheduling, I like to just write it out, and then just write out some ideas of, okay, so like how am I going to serve my clients today, or future clients? How am I going to have them be interested in me in an authentic way? And I think that is the hardest part, and that kind of goes into the, how do you become an influencer who monetizes things? I don't ever want to show up and be like, "Oh, you should buy this iPhone because it's the best
I'm
and
so
they're
glad you
going to
said
pay me
this.
tons of money."
Right.
Like I don't ever want to be that, and I don't ever want to be like, "You need to hire me or you're going to fail." like I don't want to put that
Totally.
energy out there. So it's just kind of like selling yourself, but not in a salesy way,
Yeah.
or influencing in a way that it's authentic. And it's like, I really think that you would benefit from this from
Right.
my heart. So,
I'm really, really glad you said that. And so I have a few thoughts. When you had mentioned an influencer can have like a good like ring to it, and it can also have a like, oh, because you're right. When you see them and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys, like I can't like look at this like purple teeth thing. Like it kind of becomes overwhelming. And I get it. This is where like influencers can make bank, right? But there are sometimes, and I'm sure you've noticed it, and anyone listening, like where you're kind of like, this is so full of shit. Like you are clearly getting paid. And that goes back to your values and like, what do I want my reputation to be? And so my suggestion, I have a few thoughts on this. And again, this is just my opinion, but like for myself personally, like I don't consider myself an influencer, but like I'm sure like people, you book my services, they've joined my
I'm
membership.
influenced.
Oh, there you go. Well, thanks. But like, and then I'm influenced by others too, and also inspired. And I think sometimes like swapping out that word influence to like, how can I inspire people more? Like for me, I'm like,
Mm.
I'll inspire like wherever stage you're at. If you don't know how to do it, it's okay. There's no stupid questions. We all start scrappy. I get it. We have to be mindful of budget. I would never tell anybody, book that $10,000 just put it on your line of credit. You'll make that back in. Like to me, like there's a lot of shitty advice, and that's not what I'm about. When we talk about influence, a few things. Like, what do I want to start with? What I would suggest is, because we want to like influence, like the whole influencer market it's really to help support our businesses to bring in income, which is not a bad thing. I'd like to make more money. Sure. If someone came to me like, well, if you say this, we'll pay you this. But if it's something I would never endorse, like that's icky, and that can't go away. So where I like to lean in is with my own, I guess, influence is like, how can I help people? So that's where like having my own membership or courses where it's like, this is in my wheelhouse and like, it's me. So I endorse it. It comes from a place of service and like value. So for like to have my membership, more members come in, I'm like, and it's a paying membership, but like I can use my experience to support and help, and they're getting something in return. And it's like, it's a real, to me, it's a good alignment. Same thing with like a lot of people who have courses where it's like, I'm going to get paid for my experience and the offerings and education that I can provide in the form of like a digital offer. And they can be $1,000, they can be $500, it could be a $50 ebook. And it's like, how can I then leverage where it's like, hey, everyone, like, so I have this ebook, I put it together because I'm always getting asked this, this, and this. So if you want my free guide, and then there's an extended version where it's like, you can upgrade if you want to get the full one, or you want to come to a free training, things like that. That's where I would start. Like for the first time this year, I got asked to be a part of the AI Unlocked Summit, which was super exciting for me, because that was one of the first times. I do have like affiliate links for some certain things, only things that I use, like my Amazon affiliate. I do have those. I don't push them a lot, but like I have earned some commissions on them. Now I'm
Do
glad
you just sign up for that?
yeah, you can sign up. And it's great. Like down the road, I could see where that has opportunity to grow, because I know I get asked a lot, like, what equipment do you use to record? What's your camera like? What's your mic like? So I have them. Now I don't have them listed on my website right now. I just did a whole overhaul. But if I ever mention things like that, yeah, I use my affiliate link and I do the disclosure thing. But like for my personal, like me, with this summit, if I shared, it was a free event, but if anyone upgraded and they used my link, I got a commission. And so that was still in really much alignment, because it was my influence and my background and experience and education that I could bring. And it was kind of a win-win. So it wasn't oh, try this toothbrush. Do you love it? And like, try to sell it. Well, that's not, I don't sell toothbrushes. But this was in alignment. So, but I think a lot of me being part of this was because of the connection I had to the host of the summit and the way I showed up consistently everywhere else. They're like, yeah, I think you would be good for this. I'm like, great. So like there's other opportunities that can still build from that. So that's where, to me, lean into your own influence. And then what maybe digital offerings can you bring in to grow them? Be like, yeah, I endorse this because I put it together. And don't be afraid to sell something. I'm all about value and free education. That's why I did a podcast every week. I'm not holding anything back. When people are ready and they have the opportunity to invest and they want to get there a little bit faster, because that's really all it is. Like, spoiler alert, everything out there you can find on YouTube. I mean, really, if you want to build a course, if you want to launch a website, if you want to do this and that, there's free resources everywhere. It's just when you invest, you're just going to get there faster. It's convenience. It's the same thing why they offer drive-through, like, or delivery.
It's convenience. And the other thing that I like about, joining memberships like your creative marketing membership,
thanks for the shout out.
I know, so smooth, is that the community that it brings,
right?
So for me, I won't invest in something unless I find more than just, I guess I need more value than just like the paper saying, oh, like this is how you do this. So yeah, the community, I think the community aspect of it is what I like about joining memberships and groups and
agreed
and things like that. So it's
I'm
nice
part
when
of one of as well. Yeah. It kind of like, it just keeps paying off. And I think more than ever, like, to have that support, like I'm also part of other communities and I'm like, oh, it's nice to know, like, oh, I have a question about this, and to be active in it. I don't know. And that's selfishly me too. Like, I love the community because when you can really, again, leaning into like what you're really passionate about, like I love teaching. I love talking with people. I love when, like, I was trying to lean in, and I'm not trying to be like, oh my God, listen, I'm so awesome. But
you're awesome. It's fine.
Sorry, thank you. But I feel like you can see my body language. Like, it feels icky to say, but I feel like my superpower is like, I'm really good at speaking to people, and I'm really resourceful. Like, if I could describe myself, like, I get messages all the time, like, hey, do you know how to do this? And it's just like, if I don't, I can find it really quick. And it's like, here, actually, if you watch this, my friend asked me about something a couple months ago, and I've like within 2 minutes, I flipped her a YouTube video that explained it. Like, why would I could probably help her. I'm like, just watch this video. And she's like, how did you find this so fast? She's like, I wouldn't even know what to search for. I'm like, oh, that's so fun. Like, my father-in-law calls me I'm his IT specialist because I'm always fixing the remotes, and like, I got logged out of Apple again. Help
and you
me.
can never lose that title, unfortunately. Once you're it, you're it.
Right? So. No, I know. Trust me. Anyway, sorry, we're all over the place, but that would be my suggestion is, and I think leaning into what your values are. So maybe it is more of like, with the stay-at-home mom and like raising kids and a business, and like speaking to that and lending your experience and what you can offer as a support. I mean, that could be multiple things. We don't have to get into all of that, but if it is a course or an ebook, or maybe it's a monthly membership and a check-in for like conversation, like there's so many opportunities, and it's just about finding like those people that will resonate and connect. And then from there, I think the more people we can get in front of, the more opportunity we have to grow.
Yeah.
And I just shared yesterday on Threads. I'm like, are you on Threads?
I forgot about Threads, but yes, I am.
Yeah. So I'm like, they had 100 million people jump on it in like the first like couple days, which has been crazy. So I jumped on it. I'm not really active on it, but something I posted this morning, because I was in a really good energy place, because I have everything I need and nothing that I don't, was, man, when you can really realize that running your business, it's like golf, like play the long game. It takes time. And that's something, my word of the year, aside from grace, was patience. And it's like a light bulb went off where I'm like, oh, play the long game, commit, stick with it through the highs and the lows. And through that, from my own personal experience, it's so much more enjoyable. And I don't know, there's just there's just something there, that if we can give ourselves more patience and grace, that it's not going to be like a quick flip overnight.
Well, I
ever.
think that when you're patient with yourself and you do give yourself grace, it gives you the space to value yourself. Because
Love that.
I find with my experience, I was getting really down on myself, and I was putting so much pressure on myself to be something really quickly because I was seeing all these other people doing it, and I'm like, I don't want to be in the space of growing and learning. I just want to be there now. And
Yeah.
we all know that that's not possible. We know that, but to believe it and
Mhm.
to understand that, if you just if you're patient and you give yourself grace, you will also give yourself the space to value yourself. And then, I think going back to, the balancing working from home and being a mom or a stay-at-home mom, work from home mom, whatever you are, um, I found it just clicked the other day where I was like, you know what? I have to also value what I'm doing, and understand that that deserves time, and I deserve time to put into my business. Like, um
Absolutely.
I don't have to just be a mom at home. Like, I'm more than a mom.
Yes. I love that you
um
snuck that in there. But
but
it's
like,
so true.
yeah.
It
So
doesn't, motherhood doesn't define us. Our businesses don't define us. We still have um, our own identity. And how lucky are we that we get to choose, at what points of the day that we invest into ourselves, into our families, our children, our business. But that also it can be really overwhelming. There is those times where I'm working on something big and then I'm like, oh my God, like I should be with Finnegan's home from school right now. But I'm like, I'm in my zone. And then it's like, but I know we're going to do this later. Like, and half the time it's these conversations in our heads. We're giving ourselves
yeah,
shit. And it's like,
yeah.
when my son's like,
Wait, I
I
deserve
don't even
this. I
want to, so
deserve
half the
this
time, like, I don't
time.
want to play with you. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like we have this inner dialogue that we're making ourselves feel like crap. Or I'm sure, let me ask you this. Have you ever, with 4 kids, especially, a moment to yourself and you feel like, I can't just sit here and be like, there's something I should be
Mm,
doing.
I am learning to relax, and it sounds ridiculous, but I am trying to train myself
Crazy,
to
eh?
relax, because then you're not relaxing, and it's defeating the purpose of sitting and doing nothing, because you're sitting there not doing nothing, and you're sitting there thinking of all these things that you're supposed to be doing. I should be playing with them, or I should clean this, or I should work more, or I should relax, like all these things.
Yeah,
So I'm learning to relax right now. that's
I
that's
love
part of
that.
my life right
Oh my
now.
gosh, if that could be like today's takeaway from the episode, can we all just remind ourselves to practice relaxation? Because it's true. And taking those breaks, I find I'm a
Hmm.
better mom when I get a little bit of alone time. I'm a
Hmm.
better business owner when I can shut it off and have more family time. Um, and then again, the forgiveness of ourselves, where sometimes we're not going to get it right and it's tough, but that patience, I don't know, I feel like, yeah, it does go a long way. And sometimes that's just like taking those social media breaks too. Cause oh yeah, when I see like people
Hmm.
killing it, like frig, I'm freaking so far behind. Like it feels like that until we get a win. And then we like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like we book that client or like something big happens and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm awesome.
Yeah.
And then it's well, like, and then it's like on to the next. So I
Yeah.
know lately I've really been trying to look back, like, man, when I really started and those years ago, my gosh, I would have been happy where I was a year later from there. And then a year later from that, like even the best is probably the best is always still yet to come. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of, I know I'm in my late 30s, a lot of listeners, 20s, whatever. I look at some women, I'm like, man, it just keeps getting better and better. And so just always know like the best is still ahead of us. So, but we
Hmm.
also we can't let these beautiful moments that are right now pass us by, especially when it comes to our kids.
Yeah. No, for
It's
sure.
getting
That's how I
so
feel.
big.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, oh my gosh, we've been talking a while. So
I
I
know.
I love where this went. I'm so glad this conversation, honestly, from the first when you message and you were talking about like the life and work from home mom, like I was like, yes, let's please talk about this because I think that a lot of listeners are moms. And yeah, any last thoughts on your end, or any last questions?
I think that my last thought is I don't know what you do to relax, but for me, if I'm having a hard time relaxing, three things I found actually help. One is exercising because I'm focusing on what I'm doing. The other
Mm.
thing is doing yoga because they're telling me what to do the whole time. So I'm like, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not, it's hard for my mind to go anywhere else. And then also just like guided meditations,
Hmm.
that type of thing. Because sometimes, even if I listen to a podcast, it's not me time because my mind is still,
Right.
thinking and
Oh, that's a
active.
good
But
idea. I should do that. Opening up the notes
yeah,
tab, write it down.
so yeah, so I find like those things like listening to guided meditations, working out or doing yoga or something, when somebody else is telling me what to do, it allows my mind to not kind of ping pong all over the place and just kind of chill out. So if you I don't know if anybody listening is having a hard time, I find that helpful. I don't know if you do anything that helps you relax.
It's so funny. I do enjoy a guided meditation. Usually my relax is I love reading. So I usually have a smutty, dirty romance novel on the go because I find like I don't think about any. I'm like, ooh, dirty. This is getting good.
Should
So
share your
like,
recommendations.
right? I'll put them in the show notes. Spoiler, they'll have my Amazon affiliate link. Um,
Perfect.
but so I do love to read. For the longest time, I read a lot of business books, the self-help stuff. But then same thing where I'm like, wow, the moment I'm actually taking, I love Audible as well. So like
Mm,
I could walk 3 hours. I'm like, I love walking. That's my like, oh, I'm moving my body. And sometimes I listen to something and sometimes I don't. I do let those kind of thoughts come in and out. But yeah, either listening to a book that has nothing to do with business or self-help, where it's just a story, like listening to someone else's story really just puts me in
that
that
makes sense.
zone.
Hmm.
The podcast that I do listen to that's not business related is Smartless because it's absolutely hilarious. And I find out usually when I'm walking and I'm just giggling and I look like a crazy person. I'm like, oh, this is so fun because they're hilarious. So those are kind of like the two things I would say, that or like just I love music. And it's so true, but it's taking those times. I find, especially working from home, kids aside, where I will schedule out, and I just actually had a podcast come out about this at this time of the airing about I schedule my breaks. So like when I do my time block the night before, where I'm like, okay, like where did I didn't put anything in there for me. Like, because you could easily go, okay, 9 to 10:30, 10:30 to that, da 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 da. So I usually put like take a break, walk the dog, or eat lunch. Like I have to write down eat lunch. Sounds silly and
Hmm.
mundane, but when I go through it, I'm like, yeah, it's like it's on the schedule. I've
Yeah.
told myself, go make yourself some lunch or go for a walk, go down to the water, like whatever it is.
Don't wait for it to happen. Just make it happen and schedule time for it. That makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
And I think it's just more of like a mental shift where if we're going to schedule, okay, we have this meeting, I have this podcast recording, and then I have this meeting with this client, and then I'm going to work on content for this client, this and that. And it's like nowhere for me ever there at all. Quick
Hmm.
suggestion, actually. I listen to, do you listen to Mel Robbins?
No.
So she's got I think it's the Mel Robbins podcast. I read her book recently. It's an older book, but I just happened to have it. That was one of my self-help books, The 5 Second
Hmm.
Rule. And that I found was really important. But she's also one that's really great about just having those boundaries too, of like when we can shut our brains off from work mode and like, but like really do that is certainly important. But on the last thing I will say, just because I think it ties in of like one of the tools that I've used, and it was Mel Robbins' whole ideology around the 5 second rule. And her thing is like the things that we don't want to do that hold us back. And for me, it was waking up in the morning. Like I'm someone who hits that snooze button. I'm like, not
Hmm.
ready, not ready. And like she goes into the whole like science and brain science of it, where it's like if you actually fall back asleep, your sleep cycle, it's telling your body you're actually back in sleep mode, and it's harder to wake up and you're groggier. And so her whole thing that she'd said is like, screw it. Like next morning, I'm going to get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, shoot out of bed. So as soon as I read that book, I started doing it, and I do it every single day. And this is like more of like a tangible tip that this might resonate with you or someone listening.
Hmm.
So doing that 5 second ring, like my alarm would go off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's like, Angela, get your ass out of bed. And it has been absolutely transformative for me. But what I did with that is normally I'm like 7:30. I don't know. Like I know everybody's hours are different. I'm not a 5 a.m. club. I'm sorry. But what I did do is I try to get up an hour earlier. And by doing that, 6:30, or sometimes it's 6, sometimes 6:30, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump out and I'm up and I'm off. And I've been doing 5K walk every morning with my dog. For me, 1 hour, I get my workout in, I get my like mindfulness. So again, where can we find those shifts? And it's forcing it, but it created a new habit. And I'm like so grateful for it because I can feel how good it is. And maybe in some mornings, maybe it's a half hour walk. And then I'm like, but everybody's like, my son's still sleeping. Like finding those moments. Sometimes we have to find them and look for them and just change our own, right? Anyway, well, thank you so much. How can listeners get connected to you? Because I guarantee they're like, who is Nichole? I need to know. I need to be connected because everything you brought today, I loved this conversation. This was not exactly where I thought this would go, but I'm so refreshed and energized from it. So let everybody know how they can connect with you.
Okay, so for content creation, marketing kind of stuff, you can find me at organized.aesthetic on Instagram. And for mom stuff, you can find me at morethan.a.mom. And I also have a website for my business, which is organizedaesthetic.com.
Amazing. So I will put all of those in the show notes. Just go there right now, get connected to Nichole, and let's just start building more of these conversations and community around like grace, having some fun, and having the best of everything. And I think we deserve that. Because we are more than
thanks for having me, Ange. This was awesome. My first podcast, and I really enjoyed talking with you. And
I can't wait to talk more. I know we're going to talk more. This has been great. We'll have to do this again.
Sure.
Hey, and welcome to the Creative Marketing Show. I'm your host, Angela S. Joyon. This is the podcast for ambitious women in business looking to cut the BS, stop dancing for likes, and learn to create honest and genuine marketing strategies that don't cause burnout and overwhelm. Have a question about content creation, social media, or maybe you're looking for more clarity on how to take your business to the next level. This is the show that brings the answers to your questions each and every week.